Greetings and salutations, friends! Let's talk about Elder Scrolls 6, or more specifically, what Fallout 76 might mean for the next Elder Scrolls title, because I think it might mean quite a lot. Now, you see, Elder Scrolls is a rather long-running title, and Fallout, it's been going for a while as well. Bethesda has got quite a pedigree these days, and yet, I think this failure with Fallout 76 has been a long time coming as well. So, let me to lay a little bit of groundwork first to explain why Fallout 76 is at all relevant when we talk about the Elder Scrolls 6. As you all probably know, games of course fail for a wide variety of reasons, and often for a combination of these reasons. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to divide them into three categories: game design, the mechanics of the game, be it, the internal infrastructure or the net coding, and PR marketing / overall business direction of the company in charge. And I'll give you some examples. Bad game design. Evolve, for example. A game in which the developers later admitted that they had no idea of just how hard it would be to make a one versus everyone game and have it actually be fun for everyone involved, along with some predatory business practices. Bad mechanics. Well, let's see. Mass Effect Andromeda would probably be a pretty good example of that. And I'm talking here about bugginess and unfinished product, lots of problems in Mass Effect Andromeda. You could fall out of your little buggy, for example. And there were all kinds of problems with various NPC figures having, well, downright hilarious, to be honest, facial animations and such other problems. Or a bad networking, like with Max's 2013 SimCity, where the lovely always online DRM, and let's be honest, that is what the online component was, simply could not handle the player count, meaning that the people who bought the game couldn't actually play it for days after launch. Bad idea. Or overreaching strategy, PR, marketing, etc. Here we've got two examples. First, of bad overreaching strategy for sales. EA's Battlefront 2. Yes, allow us to try and milk players so much that the government is going to have to get involved and legislate video games and whether or not loot boxes gambling or not. Yeah, that one worked out real bloody well, didn't it? Oh well. Or another EA product, Battlefield 5. At least I didn't get the two mixed up, so that's something. Where they decided, okay, this time we're not going to milk them, we're going to propagandize them with Whammon's cyborgs fighting World War II, a sure winner. Who could possibly object to something quite so progressive? It turns out quite a few people, actually, and hell, the game itself too was meh at best in my opinion, but hey. So, those are some examples. What of course makes Fallout 76 unique is that it didn't fail in one of these aspects, it failed in all of them. Absolutely every single one. I mean, mechanics? Barely functional at best. Networking? Also barely functional at best. All of the server-side issues with enemies clipping through walls, for example, because the calculations were bouncing back and forth. The game mechanics, enemies would randomly die or not spawn. Quests wouldn't function properly, and game design-wise, well, all I need to say there is it was supposed to be a Fallout game. One of the oldest and coolest damn RPGs in gaming history, being replaced with an online multiplayer survival game with barely any questing, and quite literally zero in the way of NPCs outside of robot audio logs. Yeah. And overall business direction and PR? Oh, Baggagate, anyone? The sheer amount of shit the game got after launch? They even dumped the game's price a week after launch, which to me is one hell of a fuck you to the people who actually trusted you and bought your game early, but hey, what do I know after all? And overall business direction, atoms, microtransactions, oof, and bad ones at that. No, and again, Bethesda has a long habit of bad microtransactions these days. They kind of started the trend with horse armor after all, which, oh god. how everyone yelled about horse armor. If only they could have seen the future. What a bleak and fun place it is. But what has this got to do with Elder Scrolls? Well, I am of the opinion that this has been going on for a while. A failure of this level does not happen in a vacuum, and definitely not to a company like Bethesda, which has quite the pedigree. Failures like this happen to Steam Greenlight developers, you know? And the signs have been there for a while now, because it's been going downhill for Bethesda for, honestly, quite a while at this point. So, to demonstrate, let's start with the first of my 3 categories, game design. Now, personally, I would say that the high watermark of Bethesda RPGs is Morrowind, all the way up there. While some may say Daggerfall, even though more up there, but what we can all agree on is that since these titles, things have been going steadily downhill in the design department. And I mean generally just the feel of the games, the quests, the NPCs, the delivery of the story, which really is one of the most important elements of an RPG. In Morrowind, everything was hand-placed, all of it, everything was hand-designed, and it gave every single location, no matter how humble, a great deal of weight, of history. When I entered into a dungeon in Morrowind, I didn't know what I'd find in there. I could find something incredible, something rare, like a piece of Daedric armor, for example, of which there was only one complete set in the entire bloody game. In Oblivion, or Skyrim, if I enter into a dungeon, especially in Skyrim, I can actually tell which dungeon it is by the opening entrance. And for what's inside, well, if I'm wearing iron armor, I'm going to be finding more iron. Or maybe, if I've been wearing it for long enough, the game will grace me with some steel, and so on and so on and so on. A lot of the magic has just kind of disappeared with all of these generated dungeons, etc., in my opinion at least. And as for storytelling, oh, that's been an even steeper downhill journey. Morrowind, I loved all of the various guilds. The Fighters Guild, the Thieves Guild, the Mages Guild, they were all cool. The Imperial Army, you know, the Legions, that was also cool. I spent so much time doing all of this, and then, of course, the final quest, which, granted, there was one buggy little thing there, which is one of the problems with not having scaling in your games, is that when I ran into the last boss, and I guess I'll avoid spoilers, although you really should have played Morrowind by now, I had enchanted myself to the point, and had so many overpowered potions to the point that when I hit him in the face with a mace, yeah, it was over pretty quickly. It was a somewhat less than climactic boss fight, shall we say. But the game had soul, it had immersion, and that is a that is a word, excuse me, that is kind of a joke these days, but it used to be so real, and the main reason why it's a joke these days is because so many AAA companies have desperately tried to recreate it. They've been like, oh no, we're going to give you an immersive experience, we're going to give you immersion, and they almost never deliver. But immersion is a real thing, and I think Ben Yahtzee Crossshaw really said it the best, and I'm paraphrasing here, in one of his videos when he said, immersion is when you're outside on a dark night after playing Thief, and you catch yourself looking for the stealth bar. That is immersion. And I've got kind of the same stories from Morrowind. Like, there were times where I could swear I could hear the theme music playing because it was that beautifully set into the game world. I remember waking up one particularly groggy morning and trying to open an inventory menu, being outright baffled as why isn't this working? It took me several seconds to go, oh, right, real life doesn't have inventory systems. Shame really, but hey, details. Oblivion and Skyrim had less of this, although not being bad games, mind you, they just weren't as good, and I think one of the key ways you can see this in the questing. Oblivion's quest main storyline was just kind of dreadful, honestly. The whole Emperor thing, dumb, very dumb. But it did have flashes of brilliance. An unexpected voyage, for example, where you go to sleep on a tavern, which is also a boat, and you wake up shanghaied, and the game just kind of crosses its arms and goes, fast travel? No, you're going to have to deal with this now. Which I absolutely loved. Or the Murder House quest, which it shouldn't have been as good as it was. You know, you're locked in a house with NPCs that you're supposed to kill for the Dark Brotherhood. The NPCs aren't a threat to you, they're weak as shit. You could easily kill them all immediately if you wanted to. And the quest itself is even somewhat cliched, and the NPCs, Oblivion NPCs, they are bad. They don't just reside in the Uncanny Valley. They've set up a shop there and built a fortress around it to protect their property. They are dreadful, and yet the delivery, the execution, all of it makes it such a great quest. It's so much fun. And then we come to Skyrim. Now the questing has degraded a fair bit. The Mages Guild, terrible. The Thieves Guild, a hint worse, actually. The Companions could have been good, but the werewolf thing was too damn telegraphed. And the Dark Brotherhood, again, too obvious. The whole Night Mother thing, you should have hidden that a bit better. Although I did like the jester you dumped us on the road, although again, Mother, yeah, not exactly subtle. And the Civil War, dreadful. Without the player directly getting involved, it never went anywhere. And the dragons, oh god, how do you make dragons boring? How do you make dragons boring? They were fun like the first maybe 2-3 times you met them, but after that, they became a nuisance. I've seen them described as fire-breathing mosquitoes, and I'll be damned if that is not a damn fine description of the little bastards. And what about the other games? Fallout 3, a game which, again, it had some elements. You know, it was essentially Oblivion with guns, and I think that's a fair estimate, but it had some stuff, like Tranquility Lane. That was okay. It could have been done better. It really could have been done better, and the NPCs, their woodenness, again, did the quest no favours, but Liberty Prime, rampaging around with its death eye lasers, singing jingoistic slogans, that was pretty cool, but again, And Fallout 4 was more Fallout 3, but worse in every single aspect. The quests were meh, the NPCs were even more forgettable, the technical aspects were bad as well, the game was buggy, and the fact that the already rather embarrassingly limiting dialogue wheel doesn't even give you a fair representation of what you're about to say is baffling, ludicrous. How the hell does that even happen? What kind of miscommunication is that? Did the writers write one thing and the coders go like, fuck that, I'm gonna type in something else? Why? It's dumb. And the pacing as well, all over the place. Power armor? Right off the bat? Dreadful idea. And your family, your supposed main motivation. I've known my wife for about 5 minutes. I've exchanged a dozen or so lines of dialogue with her. I've got more of a connection with the door salesman and my child. That hideously inhuman little pile of polygons. The game told me it's a baby. I guess I'll take its word for it, but I don't believe it. Then you go to the vault, you get frozen down, dude shows up, unfreezes you, pops your wife, and steals your kid. I couldn't care less. I literally could not care less. I don't know NPCs I care less about than these two. There are beggars on the streets of the Imperial City in Oblivion I care more about, because at least then, when I was a vampire, I could find them and nom on their necks. Useful. I'm not even fucking kidding. And hell, I knew so little about my wife that the dude who popped her, you could have been the hero. You know, my wife could have been a mass-murdering rapist lunatic for all I know. She could have started the damn nuclear war for all I know, so... And when I left the vault, seeing the devastation out in front of me, a brand new world, I never thought about my kidnapped son ever again. Dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. And then we come to the mechanics, you know, the netcoding. Fallout 76 was dreadful with that. Now, netcoding is not a thing that Bethesda has had too much of a history with, quote-unquote. But the mechanics, their games have always been shoddy. Always been dodgy, buggy, and to some extent downright bloody broken. And they've relied on the modding community to fix it. And we've been letting them get away with it. You know, it's been charming. We're like, oh, no, it's part of the charm. No, it's not. It's incompetence. It's bad mechanics. You know, it's flat out some people not doing their jobs properly. And of course, you know, some bugs are almost unavoidable in a game of that size. Fair enough. But you need to try and do better. And Fallout 4 was not better. It was worse in many aspects. And Fallout 76, that was just the inevitable breakdown of the team going like, well, I mean, we're already kind of dodgy with this, so yeah, this is what inevitably happens. You keep getting away with it for long enough, something's going to implode. And for general business decisions and PR, oh good god. Yeah, let's skip right over the PR disaster because you don't need me telling you about that. You've got 700 other YouTubers, hell, entire YouTube careers have been spawned of how badly Bethesda handled the marketing, so I'm not even going to cover that, but the overall business decisions, clearly, once again, the design has been lacking. It's been slipping for ages now. Nobody's done anything about it. The mechanics, infrastructure, also been slacking. Nobody's done anything about that either. And finally, the business has just gotten worse and worse and worse. Micro-bloody transactions with a bullshit currency atoms, and very bad microtransactions at that. Hilarious cost of atoms for a slightly different colored shirt. Insulting. And the Creators Club? This whole war against mods that Bethesda has going is lunacy, retardation of the highest bloody order. I mean, come on. No bloody series, no IP in gaming has benefited as much from mods as the Elder Scrolls has, as Bethesda has overall. And yet here they are, doing their level best to screw over the modding community. Now, in principle, I think modders should get paid for their work. How to do it, however, that is a damn difficult question. I don't really have an answer, but I know that the Creation Club is not it. Overpriced, recolored armor, slightly different pistols, and stuff like that. When there is vastly better content available for free, this is never gonna work out. This is never going to work out. It's just not. And I honestly blame Bethesda. I think they are placing limitations on the creators, because there are so many great modders out there, and the Creation Clubs is so mediocre to just terrible. I don't think it's the modders' fault. I think it's Bethesda doing something dumb, and considering all of the other nonsense, I think that's a reasonable assumption. So, in my opinion, everything is kind of going wrong over at Bethesda. The upper management is being retarded. They're making terrible marketing decisions. They're making terrible monetization decisions. The game designers are slipping and have been for ages. The writing staff as well. Mechanically, infrastructurally speaking, the game is doing poorly. And I remind you, once upon a time, Bethesda was actually famous for raising the bar of graphical fidelity. I know, it's been a bloody while, but they used to be great at this, and now they reuse assets and essentially reskin one of their older games as Fallout 4. The same bloody shotgun, the same bloody pipe pistol, the same bloody laser rifle, the same everything, practically. Just lazy. Just flat out goddamn lazy. And it had to happen. The collapse had to happen. The question is, what are they going to do about it now? Because collapses like this, they're big. This is not an isolated incident. This is the whole bloody rotten structure. And hopefully, this will serve as a wake-up call, where the guys at the top will realize, okay, we can't do this again. We have to get moving. We have to fix all of this, and we have to fix it quickly. Now, to be fair, Elder Scrolls is in all due likelihood very, very early in development, so they got plenty of time. Starfield, whatever the hell that is, maybe less so, possibly, but we'll see. That, if anything, will probably be the canary down the coal mine. If Starfield gets just outright dumped, or ends up being very, very poor, then I'm going to be very, very worried indeed for the Elder Scrolls 6, but hopefully, Fallout 76 will suffice as a warning signal to Bethesda that they've got to get their act together, because currently, it's looking kind of bad. We are looking at the complete collapse, essentially, in my opinion, of a company all the way from the top to the bottom, and that is probably going to be rather difficult to recover from. Anywho, what do you guys think? Do you think I'm being too pessimistic, perhaps? Being too doomsay about this? Could Fallout 76 be an isolated incident created by time pressure, for example? Considering Fallout New Vegas and the ludicrous time constraints there? despite the awesome end product, mind you, that is possible. Bethesda does clearly have a bit of a history for pushing their staff beyond the reasonable limits, shall we say. Anywho, until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much so for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.